Okay, class. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning. So, how are you? I hope you all are fine and in a good health. Uh, anyway, our online class should be continue uh, because the MCO instruction is continue as well. And not forget to wish you Ramadan Karim for Muslim, and I hope you enjoy with the fasting time uh, with your family and also with your friend if you're still in the hostel. Okay, class. This is a chapter 9. Chapter 9 talk about design modeling, and now we are shift a bit from analysis phases into the design phases, and we already do requirement elicitation. We model the user requirement, we model the system analysis, uh, and then finally we come out with the class diagram, candidate class diagram, which is you discover during the object class discovery, yeah, from your use case analysis. Okay, so now you need to understand the system development project is a process, involve a process, a lot of process, and this called when you practice the process systematically, and this called software engineering. Engineering part uh, involved in your software process where you develop your application until the implementation process at the end of the project. Okay, what I want to talk to you today is I will spend about 30 minutes only, because the design modeling, especially the high level design, is the a very high level thinking. Yeah? So, what you need to understand or what you need to do is to listen first, and then I will teach you how to convert your analysis modeling to the design modeling, yeah, by using the use case view. We utilize the use case view, we utilize the class diagram, and then we use the package diagram to structure your application. Okay, before we continue to the subject of this chapter, so this chapter will introduce you the system architecture type. What is the system architecture? So this definition is got a lot of in the internet, so you can Google it. What is the system architecture? So, and then we introduce you the design concept, such as layer, tier, decomposition, modular, or framework. Modeling, uh, we explain you the high level design using package diagram, and then the component package diagram, an example of the package diagram. So what you understand about the software architecture class? Okay, according to David Garland and Mary Shaw, this is old reference 1993, but still informative. The explanation is very clear. So software architecture is a level of design concern with issue beyond the algorithm and data structure of the communication of the computation, designing and specifying the overall system structure emerge as a new kind of problem. So structural issues include gross organization and global control structure, protocol involved, synchronization or asynchronization, and data access, assignment of functionality to design element, physical distribution, composition of design element, scaling and performance. So this is a scaling and performance is as a non-functionality. Yeah? So normally uh, it relate to the performance of the system, yeah? Performance of the application, whether the system or application that you design and you develop is good response time. Let's say you update your bill, so how long it will take. So this involve performance. And scale means your application can be grow by time. Yeah. So let's say you develop your software and deploy in 2020. Is it the system can be last until uh, after 10 years, or after 20 years, or after 30 years? Okay. Scale, yeah, means scalability and selection among design alternative. So this is software architecture. So when you finish your uh, requirement analysis and you model the system to be developed, then you need to think about the design of the application. So the design of the communication. Yeah. So nowadays application involve the network. It is not the application that you normally develop in your computer. Yes, it runs standalone. So it it never involve the network. So you will feel that your application is very fast response time. Yeah, when you update the software because it not involve the multiple network. It never involve many users. It never involve the public communication such as VPN, internet, etc. Yeah. When you talk about the application, network application, it will involve many devices, many communication. So the drawback when you develop the network application, the drawback is the response time. Yeah. And the communication is based on the infrastructure for certain country. For example, our country, maybe the internet communication is still a struggle to get the best bandwidth compared to the developed countries such as UK, Europe, and US. Okay, this is the thing that you need to think. You need to consider when you design your application. So not only to convert your requirement into the code and then run the system. So this is a old style. Yeah. So because the old system is all application is host to one repository or one server. They call it mainframe. Yeah, a machine, a big machine to process it. But nowadays we deploy our system through network. Yeah, which is used by other users such as netizens. Netizen use application using internet such as media social, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, uh, Gmail, and so on. So this involve the network, and your application, if your application is network application, you also involve or you also participate in the public network. Then bear in mind that let's say you use plus highway which is used by various people. Yeah? So you have to compete. Same also in the internet, public internet. So when your application It's not consider about the performance, about the public user, about the organization, about the protocol, about the synchronization or asynchronization of data update, then it will affect your application uh, in overall performance. Okay, so another another definitions from BAS 1997. Software architecture of a program or computing system is a structure or structures of the system. So it means that the he, I think he, BAS is a he, mentioned about the internal application. Remember that when you define your use case, and then you define the use case specification or use case documentation, which is start with happy scenario, yeah, alternative flow, uh, exception flow. Okay, this is a structure of your application. So the requirement will reflect to your structure of your application. So all the scenario will be translate into the logic of the program. So this is a concern definition from the BAS where they where he uh, explain about the external visibility properties of those components. So every application they have a program, yeah, program or logic. So logic normally represent the module, and in UML they call it component, yeah, or program. So Crushton 1999 defined that software architecture is a concern about the usage, functionality, performance, resilience, reuse, comprehensibility, economic and technological constraint, and trade-off and aesthetic. Uh, when you talk about application or software, first it involves the functionality, it involves people, it involves organization, it involves procedure, it involves policy. So these five elements you need to consider when you develop the software. Yeah. Not only your main user, let's say you develop sistem maklumat pelajar, yeah, student information system for UTM, for example. So you just concerned about UTM. UTM is big. So the sistem maklumat pelajar UTM is owned by the BPA, ya, Bahagian Perkhidmatan Akademik, academic service unit. So this unit is own the system. So when you talk about the BPA only, so I think that your application doesn't have any issue if your application run in the BPA office. Let's say this application, Sistem Maklumat Pelajar, is host in the internet. So you can access from your home, from your hometown, yeah, or from overseas. Some of the student is a foreign student, from Yemen, from Iraq, from Palestine, from Bangladesh. So before you come to the university to register to register for the new semester, normally you can access the information, your information, or you can look at your result from the internet, right? So it involves the public network and so on. So the the congestion and the performance will affect. So this is a thing that when you want to develop the software, when you want to design the software, this is a thing that you need to consider uh, under your design concept, design architecture of your software. Okay, class. I think there are many definition. So this is a software architecture element or information that you have to prepare when you produce a software architecture document, or you produce your software design technical document. The first section you have to run is the you have to present the static structure of your software. So normally the static structure of your software will be presented using use case diagram. So you will present to your user the scope of the system. The scope of the system is based on your use case scope. How many use case, meaning let's say you have 20 use cases. So the functionality of the system is that 20 module. And then you need to present your system in a dynamic structure, meaning the relationship that change over the lifetime of the software. And the dynamic structure determine what the software look like when it's running. Example, I taught you about the interaction diagram. We model the application using sequence diagram. Okay, each of the scenario need an interaction diagram or sequence diagram to model the dynamic flow of your application. So from the sequence diagram, normally you will discover the method, the operation, the state of the class, and also the behavior of the class. And then you need to present the decomposition of the software. So this decomposition of the software is referred to the type of significant of the module in a small pieces. So decomposition diagram show your software pieces by pieces until the low level. So when people see your decomposition diagram, see your application which you depict in decomposition diagram, they very easy to understand. You know that how many module involved and how complex your application. And then the software architecture element should have a component and interaction among them. So you need to, when you develop your class diagram, or when you discover the class diagram, so you need to link the class. You need to link or relate uh, from one class to another classes. So normally this refers to the various pieces that make up the software and how they interact with each other. Uh, from the fundamental process, so you start with the uh, sequence diagram, right? And then you discover the object and class, you draw or you create the class diagram, then you create the relationship between the class. And after your class diagram modeling, after you finish your class modeling, and then you start to package your system. Package the system. Maybe you already discover about 30 classes, for example. And then when you deal with the classes which is not structured, so uh, it will affect your concentration of the system. So you need to structure your class diagram into several packages. Yeah, let's say package one involve package user interface, for example. So you group all the user interface under package user interface. This is one example. And let's say all uh, controller. So you put under one package, they call it package controller. And all entity, so you put under one package, they call it package entity. Okay, so this is normally when you present to your user, to high level team, this is an element that you need to prepare. Yeah. Okay, layers, interaction among them, constraint of the software, yeah, rational of the software, style that guide the software development and evaluation, functionality of the software, set of significant decision, and other considerations such as reuse, performance, scalability, and so on. So this is a high level. They call it high level design. So before the team members want to continue the development, they have to understand. So they have to read this document, high level design, to get the overview of the system. So this is although this is a high level knowledge, high level information, but this is very helpful. The programmer or the software engineer, so they need to know the not only know about the programming, so they have to know beyond the programming portion. So if they know about the constraint, about the rationale of the software, what is the criticality of the software, uh, why this software or project need to develop, so they have, so this will help them to think beyond the programmer thinking. Yeah, normally the programmer thinking is code the program, compile the program, fix bugs. Yeah, so all the bug is normally all the exceptional error is come out from the confusion, from the confusion of the programmer on the application to be developed. Confusion means they don't understand the requirement. Yeah, they don't understand how to calculate the bonus, for example. They don't know how to update the accounting, double accounting concept. So this is a problem. If they know about the business process of the system, so the programming part become easy and fast actually. Okay, so why we need to architecting the software? I think during the explanation of the what is the software architecture, I already touched. Yeah. So the main point why we need architecture is to get the upfront overview of the application. This is the same process like you want to develop the house. Yeah? So you cannot develop your house just order the cement, order the wood, order the bricks, and then you start develop. So this called ad hoc house. If you develop for your your cat house is okay, but this is a people to live inside the house. So you need to ask the architect. Yeah, and then you translate your view or your requirement on what kind of house that you want. So the architect will draw and will visualize for you. Yeah. So same also to the application software project. So we need to give a visualization to the user or visualization to the team members. What is the software to be developed? eh? What is the component need to be uh, embedded? what is the constraint, what is the risk, what is the uh, change management involved in the software, in the process, and what is the we should know how long the business process will be remain as it is, especially during COVID-19. Everything is changed immediately. We don't know. So does the application can cater on these changes? Okay. So this is about architecture. Yeah. So why architecture important? Because we want to get ready. Yeah? We want to make sure that our application is very versatile. Yeah, very versatile, very scalable, and very easy to maintain. This is a reason why we need to architecting the application. So the key concept in application architecture, they involve the decomposition concept, component concept, framework concept, pattern, layering, and tiers. So I think framework you the word of framework is very familiar with to the programmer. I think nowadays a lot of ready framework to be used. For example, if you are PHP programmer, you very familiar with the uh, what they call it, PHP Cake, yeah, PHP Lavender. I think a lot of framework developed by the software engineer around the globe. Yeah, it is a free software, uh, and then you can download and use it. Okay, we go to the decomposition. So decomposition refers to the partitioning of a system into smaller and logical pieces such as modules, system, and component. I think this component you this decomposition you already familiar. At the beginning of the lab, I think lab 3, lab 4, you already asked by me to decompose your application, yeah, into, that means you break down your application, your system into small pieces. Okay. So reason for using decomposition is easy to manage the complexity. Yeah, of course. So you see, let's say you start with the system A, and then system A got subsystem A1, subsystem A2, subsystem A3, subsystem A3 got subsystem A311, A312, and so on. Okay, so this is a way how uh, you sharpening uh, your thinking. Yeah, you're thinking how you start your how you start to develop your software actually. So without decomposition, I think it's very difficult for you to visualize your application. What the module to be have in your application. Okay, have defined a clarify interface between different pieces. Of course, in one diagram, so you will see the relationship, yeah, between one module to another module. Yeah. And then help with distribution of the software across multiple processor. Yeah, of course you need to this decomposition diagram help you to verify, yeah, help you to do a checklist, which module is missing and which module still under development, so still under testing, still under uh, deployment, still under build, still under GitHub, still not check in it or check out it. And then the reason using decomposition is easy to distribute development tasks among the largest team. Yeah, of course, when you separate, you structure your application into several pieces, so it's easy for you to distribute the task among your team members. Yeah. So let's say module A Ali, module B Sakina, module C Safina, yeah, and then module D Tumira, for example. Okay, the drawback is a communication overhead and degradation of the performance. Okay, when you talk about OO, yeah, object oriented, and object oriented normally integrate between one class to another class. So when you integrate, of course, the drawback is the performance. So it take time, yeah. It take time uh, for you, for the class uh, to process in one component to another component. So it take time. So, and then for example, you, let's say you as a food panda, yeah, you become a food panda driver. So you got for delivery. Okay, so you have to go one house to another one house, right? So it take time. So this is a drawback of the decomposition. Okay, a component. So a component is a cohesive unit of software that provide a related set of function and services. So component can be developed and delivered independently. Has well-defined interface permit to interact with other component. So reason for using component is easy to maintain and modify for future needs. By reuse pre-built computation, it has potential to increase productivity in the software industry. Increased productivity means you don't need to develop from the scratch. Yeah. So let's say component A. Yeah. I give you the commercial example. Let's say you want to use the calendar in your application. Do you need to create the calendar from the scratch? No need, right? There are a lot of open API, so you can download and you can reuse. For example, if you use the JavaScript, a lot of JavaScript API to pop up the calendar. So this is one of the component. Yeah. And then more flexible, example, easier to distribute application to meet higher load. Yeah. So for example, JavaScript, they provide you the calendar and you can use in any platform as long as your platform is comply with the web 2.0 above. Yeah. That's why Microsoft, for example, they got a lot of problem from one device to another device because they have to they are not comply with web 2.0, or their browser is not support, sometimes not support the latest JavaScript. Yeah. uh, so a component is sometimes a component can be make a lot of money. Yeah. You develop one API, for example, API to calculate API manage account. Yeah. Personalized management account. So user can download it to their apps and then run it, and the component can be reused by other projects. When you want to develop accounting application, so you can reuse their component to do a double entry update. Yeah. And then framework also, this is a famous word, framework. There are a lot of software framework in the market. which is open source framework. So framework is normally a ready-made software, yeah, ready-made application, uh, which is not specific to not the framework is not a specific business software. It is general purpose, yeah, general pieces of the software to provide a service for you to develop a software for certain application, on certain uh, domain. Okay, so let's say you download the PHP Cake framework. Yeah, so PHP Cake is not the specific application. What I mean specific application is let's say PHP Cake is not a healthcare information system applications. So it used for general purpose. So you download the PHP Cake, and then you can embed, or you can add on your business functionality on PHP Cake framework. So the framework is the engine, like a engine, a car engine, and you can put any body of a car, any tire, any seat, yeah, any kind of uh, condition and so on. So a framework concept in software, it provide you pieces of services. For example, they have service for email, service for SMS, yeah, service for communication, service for printer, service for security, yeah, service for data data connection, yeah, uh, and a lot of service provided by certain framework. It depends on the type of framework. Some of the framework is very simple, some of the framework is very complex, yeah, and it depends on the software project manager or software team to decide whether they want to use the ready-made framework, or and also they can develop their own framework. You also can develop your own framework. Okay. uh, so some consideration on before you use the framework, it should be simple. The framework should be simple to use and avoid deep inheritance, hierarchies, and inconsistent API. So this is with regard to the maintenance. If the framework is no longer exists in the market, nobody maintain the framework, so it will difficult for you to continue with the framework. So a lot of company, for example, they decide don't use, they will not use the ready-made framework. They develop their own framework because of the maintenance and support. Yeah. And another consideration is provide adequate documentation. So when you use a software, some certain software, so you need a reference, right? So the documentation must be tip top, yeah, must be complete, must be accessible, and you can access the document anywhere. Yeah. And then identify concrete framework extension mechanism, provide built-in extension. Now this is referring to previous comment by me about the maintenance, the future development. Like I think PHP Cake sort of die already. So they have PHP Lavender and so on. I don't know whether PHP Lavender or any name. Okay, so this is example of the general purpose framework. Yeah, Google Web Toolkit, Zen framework, uh, what else? Spring. Oh, not Lavanda, Laravel. Sorry, Laravel framework for PHP. So JSF is open source application framework for Java. Nowadays, a lot of web or mobile apps frameworks. React, yeah, React native. Uh, Node.js is a framework. Very famous nowadays. Very hot topic on Node.js, which is very light and very asynchronous concept of processing. Very very light and very simple application for back-end application. Yeah? Okay, patterns. So this is one of the architecture. Yeah, one of the one of the architecture that you can use a pattern. So after you gather your requirement, you whether you want to decide to use a pattern, a framework, or the composition is up to you. So pattern is a software can be reused. Yeah, you can reuse the design that has been captured, distilled, and abstracted out through experience. Out through experience means the pattern software is already used in the market. The 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 benefit is you can reduce your development process. So you just reuse the software, and then the software already tested, yeah, already approved in the market. Then you got two benefit. The first is the development process. You can cut it. Second, you you get less risk of software bug. Yeah? Because the software is a evolution. You should understand when the more longer you use the software in the market or by the user, so the more stable of that software. So the more or the more time the software is used by the user, and the more people use the more user use the software, so the more stable of the system. So this is a benefit of using pattern, but not all pattern uh, fulfill your requirement. Yeah, let's say you develop a specific application for your user, so you cannot find the pattern for specific requirements. So you need to develop the software. Yeah. So pattern means the pattern. If you want to use a pattern, so you need to do analysis, a good analysis to research or the usage of the pattern. Yeah. Okay, so useful because reduce overall risk, can help in solving difficult problem, use of well-established software, which is already mentioned to you. Okay, another concept of architecture is a layering. So it's a pattern for decomposition. Lead to logical partitioning of the system into subsystem and module. So layers create the separation of the concern within the software of by abstracting specific type of function into function layers and providing conceptual boundaries between set of services. Okay, class. I think whether you realize or not realize, when you do the uh, modeling of your object class, using sequence diagram, or when you do the analysis of your use case. So I mentioned to you that you need to focus on the three object stereotype, right? The first is the boundary, second is the control, third is the entity. So this is a concept of layering, actually. Yeah, from the beginning of the analysis of the software, we already instill, the concept of layering. So when you talk about the three type of the stereotype, so at the beginning you already divide your application into three layers. Means that boundary is a layer of user interface. Controller is a layer of business logic, or the the control of the system. And entity is the relate to the persistent database, yeah, and also the logic in your database if you use stock procedure and so on. So from the beginning of the analysis, we is actually the OO already bring the concept of layering. Yeah. So you can focus your application into three layers. You already structure your application. Yeah. You focus on the for example, user interface. User interface is the front end. Yeah, the front end of your application. Front end means the the device, the input, the beginning of the input of the system. So when you design your user interface properly, so you will reduce your time of development, especially uh, when you want to move your application from the web apps into the mobile apps. Yeah. So the same logic uh, at the back end can be reused by the web apps and also the mobile apps. So layering useful because reduce coupling. Coupling mean uh, it create the conjunction. Example, one class handle a lot of let's say one program handle front end, controller, and also the database. Like you develop your application currently, when you develop your Bankel one project or assignment, so everything in one program. So that called coupling. Yeah, everything in one program. So if you want to change one title, so all the function need to be changed. Yeah, and then it increase cohesion. Cohesion means the object between objects uh, is less coupling. Cohesion means they 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 are not too depending, not too depending on the one object to another object. So certain object or certain class can process by themselves, and if the function is out of their scope, they can ask another object to process it. And then the layering is very easy to understand. So when you uh, go back to your sequence diagram or your class diagram, so you can differentiate, between user interface, your business logic, and also your database. Very easy to understand. Okay, class. Tiers is primarily concerned with the distribution of the software over multiple separate processes, physically distribute, distributed or same devices. Okay. Normally tiers means you separate your application into several hardware, yeah, involve hardware. Let's say from the layer designs, you separate your application into three, for example, yeah, through into three layers, and then every layers is actually can be converted into the tiers, which is you separate the front end, and then you separate between front end, control, and also the database. We separate server, for example. Okay, of course the front end is a different devices, is a user interface, yeah. Some of the user use laptop, some users desktop, some of the user use smartphone, yeah, tablet, etc. And when they process the application, so they will go to another server, yeah. And then maybe that server is very high congestion, so the engineer can create another server, yeah. And they look at the first server is already high congestion, so they can switch the request to another server, and then they go to the database. So database also, and, the engineer will create a separate server to handle on the data processing, yeah. So this is a tier, they call it. uh, Normal tier means three tier: user, application server, and database server. But recent industries use n tiers architecture. N tiers, I give you an example. N tiers, for example, Google, yeah. Google is a n tiers. We don't know, or you don't know where the server is located, because the application is run around the globe. Some of the server are put in the Kazakhstan, some of the server in the Afghanistan, yeah. Some of the server in Uzbekistan, Turkestan, Pakistan, and other Tantan. So the tier useful because increased through throughput, availability, processing power, distributed capability, and maintainability. So as I told you, you can create many server uh, to handle the request, yeah. So this is subject to the layer application design, yeah. If you not layering your application in proper, so you cannot implement the tiers architecture. Okay, we need to go fast. I think this one another uh, information you can read by yourself. So this is architectural focus. What we need to focus in the architectural process: the structure, the element, essential element, the scenario, the service. Yeah. The most important is a service. Yeah. So service mean we cater the user requirement. Payment service, for Lazada example, your order service, keep track the order service, payment service, what else? View service, search service. This is a very important functionality for business for business purpose. Yeah. Objective of architectural design. I think this already covered during our discussion previously. Okay. So in our lesson BIP 2223, so architecture will use a lot of this diagram, yeah. Package, they call it package diagram. Package, this is package when it involve a lot of diagram, yeah. When it involves a lot of package, we call it package diagram. Okay, so this will cover in the lab. I will show you how to uh, use a package. So as I told you, the package is how you structure your how you structure and group your class. Depending on the business function of your use case. So the tip is how you want to name your package of your application. You go back to your use case, then normally the use case become a package name. Yeah. Let's say you got four team members, right? And you got four Zohar already. So you got four members. Of course, you have four use case. That means you have four package. So under one use case, you got a lot of uh, class, right? So you group all the class involved in the use case into the package name. So this is a process how you want to packaging your application, packaging your uh, class or object class you discover during the analysis. So this is dependency between package. Okay, this is example of the layer, yeah, layer. You see here user service package layer, business service package layer, data service package. So normally this is your boundary, yeah, and this is your controller and business logic. Controller and business logic, and this is entity, the database. See, very easy to understand, right? Yeah. So this is what I want to promote to all the students. When you develop your application, please at least do the three layer of your application. Yeah, separate your application into three layer. It will give you a lot of benefit. Yeah, when you go to the industry also, they will look at this kind of uh, software engineer thinking. Yeah, so you see that they have a three separation. When you got any changes in the front end, you just touch on this layer only. So you don't need to touch on the business logic or the database. Okay. So this is how we uh, package, yeah, your application, your from. So this is a use case. So let's say use case loan folder, use case loan process. Under loan process, maybe there are a lot of module, right? So you can lot of use case. So every use case you create a package name, and each of the package should have a class inside. Yeah? So this is an example how we visualize uh, the application to be developed. Yeah? This is to be system. So this is database. So when you draw all this one, your system is very easy to understand in high level concept. Yeah? Okay, very easy to understand. See, user services. User services mean the UI, the information, business, service, data, or data service. So this is advanced. Normally what you need is a basic one is a three layers only. The user, the logic, business logic, the controller, and also the database. Okay, class. This is example. Okay, I already touched on the patterns. So this is a decomposition into layer. Yeah, this is process how you design. You test your architecture, whether you want to go for layer or you want to go for tiers. Okay, this is a good architecture layering, application services, business services, middleware, and system software. Okay, this is a view model by Philip Croton. Uh, so you see the requirement is very important here. So any step of modeling you need to check and balance with your use case, yeah, because the use case will control all the process, the modeling. So don't go beyond the use case you describe at the beginning of the user requirement. So if you go beyond that, so it will affect your project timeline. Will affect the design also. So see the logical view, the component view, the process view, the deployment view, all refer to the use case view. Okay, class. Any question? If you have any question, so please go to the YouTube. Please give a comment. Yeah, subscribe and press the bell. Yeah, notification. So if you don't press the notification, if I upload or give some message, so you will not get the message. So please leave a comment. If you don't understand, leave a comment. So I think it's very easy nowadays. Yeah. So you don't need to call me. You just give a message, and I always check the message in my handphone and also the laptop. Okay, class. I think we stop here, uh, and then we will post this video in the YouTube, and we will continue on how to design, especially on the high level design of your system, yeah, using three-tier architecture. Okay, thank you very much, and assalamualaikum, selamat berbuka.